back to another Commander Year in Review. My name is Scott. This is my top 10 black cards for 2022. Quite an exciting year. Lots of sets, lots of options added to Commander, which has been great. Some really cool themes that I think Mono Black wasn't really doing beforehand, or maybe just kind of dabbling in. So Mono Black artifacts was a really interesting part this year, as well as stealing from the library. Real big push stealing from libraries. Both themes I really enjoyed playing. Mono Black artifacts in particular were really fun. Kind of like seeing how that works in comparison to other colors that do something very similar. So really cool. Okay, so we'll go through my top 10. Of course, no top 10 can be done without an honorary 11th pick. So first up, we'll go with Takenuma Abandoned Mire. Now, of course, this is not a black card. That's why it's not an honorary mention. Takenuma has just been really solid. I've put this in a lot of my decks, like maybe like 80%. It just goes in so easily. It's untapped black source, which is great. And the activated ability on it, this channel ability, has been actually quite useful. You know, it is not really a spell that I would normally play, use a card for, but because it's on a land that normally will just be a land drop, but when I'm flooding out, has just been really nice, just to mill a little bit, get something back. Usually I have something in there first before I really try to see what I can get off the top, if I can get anything better. But just been really nice, and of course reduced by your commander, so that kind of 3 mana just to hold up, like I'm not really doing anything. 3 mana, I can just get something back, has been really nice. The play also having the ability to get plays good back has been really nice. So yeah, I've just really enjoyed this one. I think it's super solid, goes in lots of decks. In Mono Black, you know, you want as many swamps as possible. So having this not be a swamp, you really need to make sure that it's doing something, and I've really enjoyed it. So Takenuma is my honorary slot. All right, we'll put it there. Okay, actual top 10. Imotekh the Stormlord. So, like I said, Mono Black artifacts has been a real big push, and I've just had so much fun with Imotekh the Stormlord. I think it's a really good commander. I've got it number 10 because it doesn't really work in other decks. I mean, it kind of works in the pre-con, but not really. It really is the commander of its own deck, and you really have to build around it. And I think that's been a fun challenge and exemplifies what is Mono Black artifacts, bringing them back and things like that. It's a lot different to Tormund the Desecrator. I remember trying to build a Tormund the Desecrator deck. This one just adds that extra level of the tokens come in untapped, which is fantastic, and they are artifact creatures, which is also doubly fantastic. And especially, yeah, with that Mono Black push for artifacts and artifact creatures in particular, I've just found it really useful, and a lot of fun to build this deck. So it's number 10 because it really is its own commander. Doesn't go in too many decks, but has been blast to play. All right, number 9. Protection Racket. Super cheap enchantments. It has been an interesting deck building challenge whether I include this or not. Really, I want something that's probably a big meteor in the average mana value area. When I'm playing a bit low to the ground, I don't really include this, but when I'm flipping over 4 mana value things, it really starts to add up. You know, if I want that reach, it really starts to add up. And sometimes you just get opponents who just don't care and will just give it to you anyway, right? You know, there's that arch enemy on the table, and you know you need to get as many cards as you can. Sometimes this can be actually quite nice, because they just don't want to take damage. So it's been good. It doesn't really help you get land drops, that's for sure, because they'll just exile your land drop because it doesn't have a mana value. So yeah, it's just been really nice, really solid, just kind of getting through your library as well, which has been nice. All right, number 8, Ruthless Technomancer. So a fun card, very different to a Disciple of Bolus, although they seem somewhat similar. You come in, you sacrifice, which is great, but you're just getting those treasures, and especially with the push for Mono Black artifacts later in this year, this was kind of really set up. to help, and the treasures have been a great ramp, and then of course you can sacrifice those X artifacts and you can return something to the battlefield, which has also been nice, right? So it just does a little bit of everything that we want. We want sacrifice, we want that ramp, and we want to bring things back. So I've really enjoyed this card. It doesn't make too many decks, but when it does, it makes a solid impact, which has been really good. It really depends on the deck whether I play this or not, but I've actually quite enjoyed the ramp as opposed to Disciple of Bolas, where it's just card draw. Number 7, Hostile Negotiations. So I am super high on this card. It's been such a blast to play. It's the most mid of mid cards. It's quite an average card when you think about it. When you break it down, it's kind of like draw 3, mill 3, lose 3 for an instant speed, right? So we already have draw 3, lose 3 sorceries for 4. So this is instant. Those mills obviously will go into the graveyard, which is great. And of course, it's an added level of this fun game on top. I'm a big fan of increasing decisions for myself and for my opponents in games. So just having that extra decision on top has been a lot of fun. Really, if your piles, if your face up pile is too good, they're going to give you the face down. If your face up pile's not that good, then they're going to give you the face up. So it's not as tricksy as a Factor Fiction, where they need to kind of work out the piles. You just have those 2 piles, but when your piles are quite average, then it can be quite fun. So you really want something that you want it to kind of go in the graveyard. But I've just enjoyed the 4 mana draw 3, mill 3 at instant speed. I think it's just great as is. I think I bought 5 of these, and they've all gone in decks, which has been great. Okay, number 6, Lethal Schemes. Okay, really solid removal spell, right? So destroy target creature or planeswalker is kind of like a 4 mana effect. But this has Convoke, so essentially it can be free, and then it has Connive on top, and Connive's just been great because we're putting stuff in the graveyard, we're drawing cards, we're going through our library. So I've been happy with this when I've had 2 creatures and I've just connived both creatures. I'm getting draw. I'm destroying a creature or planeswalker for 2 mana. I think that's a fine rate. And I'm drawing and discarding. It has been really solid. Usually I don't really care too much about the counter. I haven't really built a deck that really has cared about the counter. I just want to kind of go through my deck. So I've been really enjoying Lethal Scheme. I think it's a very underrated removal spell at the moment. I don't think enough people are playing it, and it has been really good. Okay, number 5. All right, I think I've got quite a few. Yeah, I've got 5. Here we go. Yeah, 5. A lot of them are actually commanders as well as creatures that will just go well in the 99, right? So Junji the Midnight Sky, it's just been a solid creature. 5/5, great. Flying Menace, whatever. It's the die trigger that's been really nice. Each opponent discards 2 cards, loses 2 life. So when it dies, you're getting a 6 for 1, which has been really nice. Of course, there are your opponent's worst 2 cards. So I haven't really, most of the time I go for the secondary effect, which is to put essentially reanimate a non-dragon. I don't play a lot of dragons, this is mono black. There aren't that many mono black dragons. Kukusho, is the other prominent one. And man, this would be really great with that, obviously. But it's just been great just to get that reanimation creature. I think this is just a solid 5 mana 5/5 flyer that has the reanimation, but if I need to, I can get the 6 for 1 value. So I think it's just a solid creature. It itself is a good commander, as well as going in the 99 of a lot of decks. So it'd be really nice. I haven't actually built this one as a commander because it's kind of like a Kukusho deck. I think they're built quite similar, except this one has more of a reanimation package. I don't know, but yeah, I it's on my list. Anyway, all right, number 4, Gix Yawgmoth Praetor. Oh, I have been having such a blast with this deck. It's been so much fun. This aggro mono black deck that I built. Oh, it's just a blast. Just all out. I don't care what my opponent's doing. I'm hitting you with my shadow creatures. Has been great. I think the draw effect is really, really valuable. It maybe like adds a little bit extra decision for my opponents to see whether they attack me or not. Sometimes I'm just like, my life is getting really low, so they'll just kind of like go for it and just attack me anyway, knowing that I'm trying to build up for the big kind of discard thing. So that comes into play, but then, you know, you can convince some opponents just to attack each other, which has been really, really great, because I've just got shadow creatures, and those shadow creatures can't really block anything. But just drawing so many cards has been great. This discard effect, although you know, I'm discarding like X is 10, and I'm getting quite a few cards, a lot of fun cards. You know, those are my opponent's cards that suit their decks, not really mine. So sometimes it can be hit or miss, but it's fun anyway. So I've been really enjoying Gix. I think it's a great commander, and I think it also works well a lot in the 99. I've got it in the 99 on my Sheoldred deck. And I think I'm trying it out in my Mortarion deck as well, although I think I might be pulling that one apart. So, you know, it's just been a fun card. Really enjoyed it. Okay, top 3. Right, top 3 best mono black cards. Sheoldred the Apocalypse, super fun for me. You know, there's always the card that people hate in, you know, each year in mono black, and, you know, last year it was Turgid, and this year I think it's Sheoldred. Just really it was really difficult to kind of work out whether this was good when first reading it, and then you actually play it and it's like, oh my god, it's fantastic when you really build around it, right? When you really build around it, when you get your opponents, like, have all the cards you want opponent, peer into the abyss my opponent, whatever, you know, go for it. I've been having a blast with it. I think people will get frustrated with this one. I think that when I play this one, people like it the least, because it can feel very oppressive, but there's not that much, you know, Sheoldred doesn't really protect itself in any way. So it kind of has that same Turgid effect of Turgid is super powerful, but if you can remove it relatively simply, then it's no problems. I think Sheoldred has the same thing, but it's just so fun drawing cards. I'm drawing cards, opponents drawing cards, let's all draw cards. Has been a lot of fun to play. So Sheoldred, I think, is super powerful. All right, number 2 on the list, Braids, Arisen Nightmare. This card I thought was good, and then you play it and you realize it's amazing. Like, this card is just so good. The fact is you can sacrifice whatever you want almost, right? Like, it's artifacts, creatures, enchantments, lands, all planeswalkers, whatever. And your opponents, they don't want to sacrifice unless I'm up against some token strategy. They just don't want to sacrifice it. You know, and I've sacrificed lands, I don't care. You're drawing 3 cards. Your opponents don't sacrifice their lands. Their opponents barely sacrifice creatures. I've been playing with a heavy artifact theme, but I think Braids also goes in the decks, in the 99 of a lot of decks. So it has just been really solid just as a draw engine, you know. If I'm playing just a few expendable creatures, it can just go in as a great draw engine. So really enjoyed Braids. Relatively cheap to put down. You know, I can get those reassembling skeletons in and then get Braids on top and just have that engine going. And it has just been really solid. Life loss, whatever. It ends up, you know, being a considerable amount of a few turns, but it's really there just to draw, and I've just loved it. So Braids, number 2. So number 1, Black Market Connections. I mean, I don't know if this would be a surprise to people, but Black Market Connections has been really solid. I, you know, pretty much always go for at least the treasure. depending on my life, but it pretty much it's 3 mana and get a treasure and draw a card and lose 3 life, which I think is an okay rate. This comes down to 3 mana, that, you know, that Phyrexian Arena thing, but it gets you to 5 mana the next turn, obviously. And sometimes I have that my 4 mana play, because I think quite a lot of my decks you know, will have a 4 mana commander or 4 mana play, so I've got that treasure just banking up, which has been really, really nice. So the token, it really depends. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Like if I need something to protect Planeswalkers or something like that, I might do it. But this has just been super solid. The earlier this gets down, you know, it has the same Phyrexian Arena effect, where if it doesn't come down early, then it gets less good. But just super solid. It's ramp, it's card draw, it does everything I want to do. Just really enjoyed it. I think it definitely would be number 1, and I think it would be no surprise to people. So yeah, so that's my list. Just to go over: Black Market Connections, Braids, Sheoldred, Gix, Junji. So 4 commanders, which has been really, really fun. Lethal Schemes, I think, is a bit underplayed, and even I know I need to include it more. Hostile Connection is just the most average card, but just solid, as an instant. If this is sorcery, probably wouldn't play it as an instant. Great. Ruthless Technomancer goes in certain decks, doesn't go in every deck, but I have enjoyed it. Protection Racket, also the same. Imotekh, I think, really exemplifies what's been happening with mono black and artifacts, and of course Takenuma for an honourable mention. So that's my 2022 list. I've really enjoyed where Mono Black has been this year with its card stealing library. I haven't got anything from the stealing for the library that kind of represents that. I think those cards have been fun. Some of them are very overcosted. You know, things like the Elder Brain and things like that were really fun, but a bit expensive. So I don't think they necessarily make the cut in a top 10 list. But you know, if I was having a top 20 list, maybe something like that might get in there. But yeah, a lot of fun. 2022 has been a great year, and I hope it continues into 2023. Thanks for watching.